Hey guys, keep passing around the word to have everybody join back in on this stream. Sorry, it just cut out. I guess I guess it just automatically cut out once the game was over. So sorry, little kink I didn't know that was there. We'll have that fixed by next week. So keep waiting for everybody to hop back in. Let me send out a message to everybody to the link. Copy. Here we go. Um, where are we at on people? Everybody back? Let's see. Everybody back in? Quit updating. Oh, here we go. What's up, dog? Hey guys, keep inviting back to back to the friends. Tell them to hop back into this stream real quick. I just got a ton of text messages. All right. So from here on, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the message that we recorded yesterday for you guys to all watch. After this, you guys are going to be engaging in group conversations with your group leaders. Hopefully, they're working out the details with you guys on that, or already have. If not, be sure to reach out to them. And right after the message, I'll be back on here to talk to you again. So don't go anywhere right after the message. I'll talk to you again right after to help you guys get set up if you need it. I think we're still waiting on a few more. And you're welcome, Devin. My favorite joke. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start it, and then whoever isn't in here in time, they can go back and watch it if they want. But again, guys, keep sharing the link. Help them to get in here. All right, let's go ahead and get rolling with the message. tonight we are continuing our series, Doubt It, where we said we're going to be talking about the doubts that we feel within the context of our faith. And so right now, I'm talking to you guys, the students. We're going to listen to this message together, and then right after this, you guys are going to engage in group conversations with your group leaders via group messaging or group FaceTime. Your group leaders should be working out those details or have already worked out those details with you guys right now. So be sure to meet up with them there right after this. So tonight, I want us to start off by showing you guys a book that was typically read to me whenever I was a child. You guys have probably seen this book or heard this book like me. And this book is called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. And in this book, it basically follows the character of Alexander. And this Alexander is a kid, and he's just walking through his normal walk of life. And this book particularly follows him one particular day. And throughout this day, he encounters what he would consider to be the worst possible things he could ever encounter. He encounters things like waking up with gum in his hair, or his best friend is mean to him. He has to eat lima beans for dinner, or there's kissing on the TV. A lot of little kid things that don't seem like the end of the world, but to the kid, seem like the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen. And for Alexander, he has this running joke within the book that he's going to move to Australia, that he's going to get away from his life because he hates his life right now. He's borderline a depressed child, and it's kind of sad what the things that he's depressed over. But realistically, for him in his life, this is a very real thing. And for us, a lot of times, we encounter these real moments just like Alexander, where we feel like we're having a horrible, terrible, no good, very bad day. And it's during these moments where we typically ask these questions of God. We are like, God, what are you even doing? God, are you even here? Do you even care about my life right now? Do you even see what's going on? And sometimes we actually unintentionally do this because it's just something that we normally say. It's our normal way of talking. If you guys think about it, what's the number one thing that you guys normally say right after something bad happens? God, right? God, what? God, this, you know? Right after something bad happens, we automatically just say that. Even though we probably don't mean it to be directed towards God, we say it automatically anyway. And you've probably heard your parents or some other adult leader tell you that you probably shouldn't say that, because ultimately what you're doing is you're putting blame on God for doing something that he really probably didn't even do to you. And in essence, you're kind of doubting him in whenever you do this. But whether you actually say it or not, whether you actually come out and say those words, whenever we're in those painful moments, this is what we feel. We feel these issues and we want to talk to God. We want to ask God, God, why are you letting these bad things happen? And so my question is, whenever we're in the mix of everything that's going wrong, how do we continue to be a passionate follower of Christ whenever those things are all going wrong? And so to help us with that, I want to show you guys a video from these guys called The Bible Project. And what they do, it's these two guys, and they make these videos describing Bible stories with animations and their own narration behind it. They do a really good job. And so I want to show you guys a story that they created following the story of a guy named Job. And if you guys know the story of Job, you guys will know that this is a guy who has the perfect example of what a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day actually looks like. So I'm going to kick it over to this video for you guys to watch, and we'll talk a little bit after.
There are 3 books in the Bible known as the wisdom literature: Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. The first, Proverbs, showed us that God is wise and just.
Yeah, we learned that God has ordered the world so that it's fair. The righteous are rewarded, the wicked are punished. In other words, you get what you deserve.
But then we meet Ecclesiastes, who observes, people don't always get what they deserve.
Yeah, he said the world isn't always fair, that life is unpredictable and hard to comprehend, just like smoke.
And this makes you wonder, okay, well, is God wise and just?
Exactly. And so it's that question that is being explored in the final book of wisdom, Job.
All right, let's dive in.
So Job begins with a strange story that takes place up in the heavens, which are described something like a heavenly command center. So God is there with these angelic creatures called the sons of God, and they're all there reporting for duty.
And God points out this guy Job, his servant, showing how righteous and good he is.
And then one of these angelic creatures approaches. He's referred to in Hebrew as the Satan.
The Satan. Who is this?
Well, this word is actually a title, which literally means the one who is opposed. So out of this whole crew, he is the one questioning how God is running the world. And he proposes that Job might not actually love God, that he's only a good person because God rewards him. If God were to take away all of the good things he gave to Job, then we would see his true colors.
So he thinks Job is just working the system?
That's exactly right. Maybe he's obeying just to get what he wants.
So God agrees to this experiment and allows the Satan to inflict suffering on Job.
And Job loses everyone and everything that he cares about. It is devastating. And remember, he deserves none of this. God himself said so.
The remarkable thing is that in the midst of all this suffering, Job still praises God.
At least for chapters 1 and 2. But then in chapter 3, we find out how he's really feeling inside. He unleashes this poem that reveals this devastation. It's a long, elaborate curse on the day that he was born.
After this, some of Job's friends come to visit him to offer their help. And all of them are like, Job, you must have done something horribly wrong to deserve this. After all, we know God is just, and we know the world is ordered by God's justice and fairness, so you must be getting what you deserve.
And for the next 34 chapters, the friends and Job go back and forth in very dense Hebrew poetry. His friends keep speculating about why God might have sent such suffering, and they even start making up lists of hypothetical sins that Job must have committed. But after each accusation, Job defends his innocence.
And Job is innocent.
He is. He's also on an emotional roller coaster. At some moments, he's very confident that God is still wise and just.
Yeah, in other moments, he's doubting God's goodness.
He even comes to accuse God of being reckless, unfair, and corrupt. So by the end of the dialogues, Job demands that God come and explain himself in person, and God does so. He comes in the form of a great storm cloud.
Now, God doesn't give Job a direct answer. He doesn't tell Job about the conversation with the Satan.
Yeah, he does something very different. He takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe. He shows Job how grand the world is, and he asks him if he's even capable of running it or understanding it, just for a day. He shows Job how much detail there is in the world, things that we might see every day, but really don't understand at all. But God does. He knows it all intimately. He pays attention to the beauty and operations of the universe in ways that we haven't even imagined and in places that we will never see.
Then to conclude, God shows Job two wondrous beasts and brags about how great they are.
Yeah, they are dangerous. I mean, they would kill you without even thinking about it. And God says they're not evil. They're actually a part of his good world.
And then that's it. That's God's whole defense. It's kind of weird. I mean, what was this all about?
It seems to be this. From Job's point of view, it looks like God is not just. But God's perspective is infinitely bigger. He's dynamically interacting with a whole universe of complexity when he makes decisions. And this is what God calls his wisdom.
So Job asking God to defend himself is actually kind of absurd.
He couldn't comprehend this kind of complexity even if he wanted to.
So where does this leave us?
Well, it leaves Job in a place of humility. He never learned why he suffered, and yet he's able to live in peace and in the fear of the Lord.
So basically, after everything that had gone wrong for Job, God never really gives Job an answer as to why he was suffering like he was. And all God does is he really gives him this picture of how great, how vast the universe and the world is. And I mean, God could have gone into a little bit of an explanation about this, the details of this arrangement with Satan that he'd had, and how Job was going to be held as like the ultimate example of what it looks like to still follow God in the midst of the darkness. But he doesn't. God doesn't explain this to him. He doesn't give Job a clear answer. And for Job, that was good enough. But how many times is that not good enough for us? See, a lot of times whenever we question God, we ask God questions like, why did my mom or dad leave? Or questions like, why do my parents beat me even? Or questions like, why did my grandparent die now? I mean, they had so much life to live. And we ask these questions, and these are real things that we're feeling, and these things crush us. They crush us because we feel like we have to have an answer for our suffering. We have to have an answer as to why we are suffering. I mean, that's what we live for. We live for the answers to our questions. For Job, he'd lost all of his sons and daughters. He'd lost everything that he had. He lost his health. He'd lost all of his kids, and he was asking those same questions that we normally ask whenever we're suffering. He was looking for the same exact answers that we normally look for whenever we're looking for answers. But like I said before, God doesn't really answer these questions for Job. But just because Job's questions don't get answered mean that his story is over. Job's story is not over. It's actually far from over. Check out the rest of his story right here.
But that's not where the book ends, because after this, God restores to Job double everything he had lost. And this, again, is surprising. I mean, is this a reward? Is God saying, congratulations, Job, you passed this elaborate test?
No, I mean, the whole book just made the point that Job losing everything was not a punishment, and so now getting it back isn't a reward.
So why does he get it back?
Well, apparently, God, in his wisdom, decided to give Job a gift. We don't know why. But what we do know is that Job is now the kind of person who, no matter what comes, good or bad, he can trust God's wisdom.
And that's the book of Job and the end of our wisdom series.
These biblical books of wisdom are amazing. Each one offers a unique perspective on the good life, and you need to hear all of them together as you learn to live with wisdom and in the fear of the Lord.
So at the end of Job's story, God restores everything back to Job, giving him actually double everything that he'd had before. But this doesn't take away from the pain and the suffering that Job had experienced originally. And if we're to pick up anything from Job's story, we need to pick up that we can actually trust what Paul writes about in the book of Romans. Paul writes this in the book of Romans 8:28. He says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Honestly, whenever Paul wrote this verse, he doesn't mean to write this and say that everything is going to turn out with a happy ending, that everything is just going to be great. Really, what Paul is saying is it's a call to trust. It's a call to trust God no matter what's going on. It's a call to trust God even in the darkest moments, even whenever our questions don't get answered. So can you trust God in the midst of your unanswered questions? And your questions will probably never get answered, but can you accept and trust God even whenever you know that your questions won't get answered? And if we can continue into that trust, God can redeem the world around you. He can. He can, and you can pray that he will. But more importantly, he can redeem the spirit that might be broken within you because of the heartache that you've experienced in your pain. And guys, if there were ever a time for us to lean into this trust, it's right now. With everything that's going on right now in the world, in the midst of all the coronavirus, and I know for some of us it seems a little over-exaggerated. For some of us, it might actually be hitting us a lot harder. But this is a time where people are going to be feeling hurt. And people are going to feel the hurt. And I'm not talking about the coronavirus. I'm talking about everything else. I know there are a lot of people right now, including some of our high schoolers, that are going to be out of a job because of everything that's going out, everything that's going down, everything's shutting down. There are lots of high school seniors right now who might miss out on the entire rest of the school year. They might miss out on their entire last season of playing spring sports. They might miss out on prom. Even though you've bought that prom dress, it might be gone. And you might even miss out on graduation. The one moment that's the perfect time for closure for you with all of your friends here at the high school. You might be robbed of that opportunity. This is certainly not a great time for you guys. And it might not be a great time for your family. I mean, there are going to be people that are feeling a lot of hurt in this time. There's a lot of darkness going around right now, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. But guys, in the midst of the darkness, in the midst of all the unanswered questions, in the midst of the anxiety right now, I ask you guys, can you trust? Can you trust that God will move us through this? Trust that God ultimately is in control and that he sees a world so far beyond what we actually see. And can we trust and lean into what Paul wrote He says, "For we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Let me pray for you guys, and you guys can go into your groups. Father, we thank you so much for an opportunity to just even gather here online. I ask, as we engage throughout this season, that we'd be able to still engage through the technological advancements that we have with each other, but also to have real conversations that help us lead us towards you. And in the midst of all the hurt that's going on right now, God, we just pray that you be with everybody who's going to deal with the side effects of this virus that's going around. God, we as followers of you have full faith and trust that you're going to get us through this, that you are in ultimate control. And God, we just hope we can lean into that tonight. We love you so much, and we thank you so much. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, so from here, you guys are going to be going into your groups, and for those of you guys who are asking questions, I can see that a lot of you guys are confused in where you need to go. In just a minute, I'm going to put up a slide with information for your group leaders. So students, I'm going to leave this up to you guys to reach out to your group leader for you guys to figure out more about how your group conversation is going to roll and like this. So let me get into that right now, if I can get to it. All right, so this is going to be your groups. Guys, reach out to your group leaders. Augusta, we do have a group going for Augusta. But guys, I would also say invite your friends into this. If you have a lot of friends that are not here, go ahead and invite them to come in, and they can join in with the group.